Hello everybody, welcome back for another episode of Will's Way. I hope everyone's keeping blessed. The sun is shining, man. And as well, we've had a rebrand. So if you clicked on this video, you'll notice that the logo has changed. It's behind me here. I just want to give a quick introduction to the reason why we did this, because the podcast has been doing really well. And if you haven't checked the podcast out yet, check it. I've linked it down in the description below as well. And the podcast and Will's Way YouTube, they're very similar in terms of what we're talking about. We're talking about success, spirituality, attraction, law of attraction, all these type of things that can, significantly change our lives, man. You know what I mean? So the reason I thought I would change the logo is I thought, it needed a bit of a freshen up. And you know what? I'm back now, and I wanted to really sort of like just create something new, but carry on as what we were doing before as well. So as you can see, the logo, it's a brain and it's a strong brain, and that's what we're about, man. Like, the whole idea and the symbolism behind like the logo was to be able to say, right, with a strong brain, with strong willpower, you know what I mean, we can have this abundant life. And it's almost like sacrificing temporary pain for long-term pleasure, because a lot of the time our brain wants to move towards pleasure so quickly, so we'll give in to that cake, we'll give in to these temptations, you know what I mean, and then later on we'll regret it because we know for a fact it's not really benefited our long-term growth and longevity. So like the whole channel and the whole brand in terms of Will Way is about trying to empower people to have a stronger brain, have more discipline, more willpower, and we've all got the power within us, you know what I mean, to be able to do so. So guys, I hope you like the logo. I'm loving this logo, man. I feel gassed, I feel like energized, I feel like this energy is like rolling through me right now. So today we're going to carry on the book series, and we're going to do this for 4 weeks. So the first week, last week, was 7 Spiritual Rules by Deepak Chopra. I'm hoping you like that video. And this week we're going to review another book that's profoundly changed my life. But this book is a lot longer, it's a lot more deep, there's a lot more explanatory. So this week we're going to be reviewing a book, To Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. I hope you guys have, come across this somewhere in your life in terms of hearing about it or potentially read it as well. In this book, there's 13 principles that allow us to be able to tap into the source of infinite intelligence. And this is what Napoleon Hill describes infinite intelligence is. And it can be described in many ways. There's a lot of different authors and different speakers that describe the same thing and describe it a little bit differently. So Deepak Chopra, in the last week's book, described it as the universal energy, the universal mind. Napoleon Hill describes it as infinite intelligence. A lot of people could call it the divine. A lot of people could call it God's spirit as well. It's just infinite intelligence in terms of us tapping into this resource that allows us to have this abundance in our lives. And you know what? Napoleon Hill was so ahead of his time. This was written in 1930. So you've got to understand that that is a long time ago. And if you can imagine people reacting to his work then, like even some people are skeptical now. You know what I mean? And we're coming into this great awakening age where a lot of people are opening their minds to this concept. Can you imagine how much resistance he probably had back in the day, which was probably crazy really, you know what I mean? So this guy has probably changed my life. So we're going to get into each one of these principles, and we're going to really break down each principle. I'm going to show you again how each principle has affected my life and how I'm still using that principle to be able to tap into that infinite intelligence. So principle number 1. The first principle was having a burning desire for what you're doing. And this is really important, I feel, because a lot of people in life will try to go towards the things that will make you quick money. But if you don't have the desire for that purpose, or you don't have a desire for that specific category and what you're working with, likelihood is you're going to get bored and you're not going to have the persistence to be able to carry through your objectives. So the first thing is finding the real purpose in life. Finding one thing that really, really makes your heart burn in terms of passion. And don't think of it, what can make me money quickly, right? I'm gonna get into that. Because if you're not aligned in terms of your heart, in terms of your thinking, that coherence in terms of like, I love what I'm doing, you're not going to be able to sustain that for a long period of time. So desire is the first principle that he actually describes in the book. And it's an incredible way of pulling yourself towards something that you love doing. So the first thing is actually having the self-awareness to understand what you love in life. Like, you have to think as well, are you in a job right now where Monday morning you wake up every single morning, you want to go back to that job? I know right now we're in lockdown as we're filming this video, so a lot of people probably not working right now, but use this time as a reflective time to understand, on Monday morning, did you go in, did you wake up early enough to say, I'm excited to go in today? And if you didn't, you need to find that desire, which is actually in connection with your desire. Everybody has a dharma here, which is like the law of purpose, and everyone's got one, but if you haven't found it yet, try to search within yourself to find that purpose. Then once you've got it, you've got the starting block to be able to create something incredible. Because it doesn't matter really, even if it takes a long time, as long as you love that, you're gonna keep going with it. So he explains that desire is probably the most important first thing that we need to have. We need to have that burning desire, and we need to want it so much, you know what I mean? And we've got to be able to overcome obstacle, failure after failure, to be able to get to the end goal of where we need to go. Principle number 2 is faith. And faith is such an important element to our lives, you know, in terms of what we believe, in terms of what will come to us in our life. It's a massive factor of what does. And I've done a podcast actually on attracting wealth, and faith is a massive part of what I'm talking about and describing, in terms of how you subconsciously believe what you are, you know what I mean? And that faith is having complete, utter knowing that you will get to where you want to be despite your environmental circumstances right now here. And that's a very hard thing to do. If you're surrounded by what doesn't represent wealth, it's very difficult to be able to, you picture in your mind where you should be in terms of in the future, you know what I mean? Because your external environment doesn't represent what you feel inside. And this is another thing in terms of faith. You need to believe it. You need to actually have that real faith and desire to think, you know what, right now this is my external, but it doesn't matter what is here right now. Here's what I feel inside, and I know this is going to come to pass. So that faith will keep you on your track, and as well will keep you on the road. Like the first year of my engineering business, I was struggling, I'm not going to lie, you know, it was very difficult for me to gain traction within an industry that I wasn't really known. So the thing that kept me going though was the faith of knowing that I can carry out these processes, I'm good at what I do, and at some point the tide will turn, you know what I mean? And I had to have that faith, because there's points in time within that first year where I could have given up, and I was this close, and I felt like every odd was against me, but I still had that faith to get through the next day, and I took it day by day, and the faith grew and grew and grew, and now I'm in a position of complete abundance and wealth in terms of what I've created. But it only came from having the faith of believing it would happen. And it was really difficult at the time, because if you actually now convey them circumstances then to the circumstances now in terms of what I've got, they are so different. And it was only within 2 years this turned around for me. So it was, you know, in terms of like a long-term objective, that 2 years is very short, if you know what I mean, in terms of struggling to success. So never ever give up, and always have that faith and hold that vision within your mind that you can come to that place where you will be where you want to be. And the faith itself transforms your ordinary thoughts into a spiritual thought, and that spiritual thought goes out and it projects to the universe, and it comes and mirrors back to you. And this is the same thing. Napoleon Hill knew about law of attraction, but what he was doing in this book, he was explaining it in a way that everyone can relate to it. And this was the beautiful thing about the book. It really transmuted that information, and it just made it so easy to understand. So faith is so important for your growth as well. Principle number 3 is auto-suggestion. And I've actually done a video on this as well. And I've taken my auto-suggestion video, which I'll link below, and I actually put down in stages what this book taught me in terms of actually really using this principle every single morning, every single night, and it had a profound effect in my life, you know what I mean? And do you know what? This is being talked about everywhere, which, you know, self-talk is so important in terms of the way you relate to yourself on a daily. And again, within my podcast, in Attracting Wealth, it is one of the key points in terms of how we actually attract that wealth, is what we tell ourselves every day. And if we're not careful, the general conscious thoughts that we talk every day, like, oh, I'm in debt, I haven't got enough money, oh, I need to pay this debt, oh, why is the world so against me? This self-talk that we talk every single day can start to affect the subconscious part of our brain. And that subconscious part of our brain is directly connected to infinite intelligence in terms of what we get and what we receive. So remember, that information center in our brain, the subconscious, is 95% of our programs that run every single day. So if we're actually using auto-suggestion in a negative way, and we keep on saying to ourselves that we haven't got enough and we're living this lack and limitation, every time that our conscious brain goes to search into the subconscious for inspiration or action, it's going to give you a negative answer, which then creates this horrible cycle where you keep going in the wrong direction. projection. The subconscious brain is the beautiful, creative part of our brain. So it is so important that we impress it with positive affirmation as well in terms of what we think of ourselves. And the subconscious brain, remember, it doesn't take things literally. It doesn't know what truth or false is right now in this present circumstance. So make sure you impress it with where you want to go. So if you're currently not wealthy, feel wealthy. Tell it that you are wealthy. You know, end of the day, we need to be able to feel right now what we want to be. And once we can do that and we can impress that part of the brain, it has this mad effect on our lives, you know what I mean? Principle number 4 is knowledge. And this principle as well is so important because people generally think that the saying knowledge is power is true. But the reality is it's not true until it's actually organized and put into a plan of action. That's the only time when it's actually implemented it makes a difference in terms of your life. So you could be reading thousands of books, you know. There's a lot of people that generally have this information, and also it all depends on what type of knowledge it is, because it can actually be 2 parts. One part can be general knowledge, which is just general information that generally doesn't really have the pull and focus in terms of bringing you wealth and abundance. And one part is specialized knowledge, and he really emphasizes how specialized knowledge in a certain niche or in a certain area can really transform your life. Because if that certain niche is specialized and you can actually really gain knowledge and a plan of action that actually puts into action your knowledge in terms of creating a service that creates value for people, add value to the world, it can really be a big part and play of your actual abundance and wealth. And the example here for me was the fact that me and my engineering business went into a niche in engineering, which was condition monitoring, and it was very new technology on the market, and there's not a lot of people that do this type of work. And because it was so specialized, it allowed me to be able to, you know what I mean, charge more for the value I gave and not charge for my time. And when you get into that area, in terms of people pay for the value that you give them and not just for your hourly rate, understand that the more value you can give someone in terms of saving money, the more you can charge for that. So that's a real key in terms of understanding how to tap into that wealth. If you haven't got a specialized knowledge right now, now's the time to start researching. Be a student, you know what I mean? There's so much we can learn in terms of what we do. Like every single day, are you driving and just listening to music? Could you be listening to a certain audiobook that teaches you this knowledge just on the go? And you know, the same as when you go running, can you be listening to something that's going to give you a little bit of information and knowledge? And also segregate some time every single week to learn more. Like I've got this specific time in the morning where I just purely try to learn something new. It's maybe something that I can understand and take further into life as well, if you know what I mean. So always try to understand that knowledge, general knowledge and specialized knowledge are 2 very different things. General knowledge is not going to be able to really give you that abundance in terms of wealth, because you're not going to be able to place value to get something back for it. But specialized knowledge is something that can really project you into the future in terms of actually charging more, because you can bring more value because you know something that no one else does. Principle number 5 is imagination. So imagination is so important, and you know what, I will do a video completely separate just on creative visualization, and I'll give you an example how I used this within my life to get what I wanted. But imagination is so crucial, and understanding that painting images and actual feelings in our brain, we can actually then convey the real emotions of actually having them things. So say for example, every single night and every single morning, I'll imagine myself in terms of my dream house, into my dream environment in terms of where I work. And you know what, it will give me these feelings inside of actually being there already. And that feeling in terms of emotion, of feeling like I've already got it, really transmutes into that subconscious part of the brain. And the subconscious doesn't understand, it thinks it's just real, because our feelings are ones that capture inside the subconscious brain, because they're enticed by emotion. So this actual transmutation in this moment is almost like when you're in meditation in the quantum world. When you're really placing your focus and your attention on something, you actually bring that focus and that opportunity to life within that quantum field. And what happens, that projects back to us. So we may not actually manifest this in days, but at some point in the future, if our subconscious believes it enough, we will be in a circumstance of where that was. And trust me guys, this works. Like creative visualization is a brilliant way, and it can be done in many ways. It can be done in meditation in terms of your imagination. It can be done before you go to bed, and you can just visualize yourself where you want to be. And it can be done by vision boards as well, by actually placing images and suggestions within your office. So say for example, I've got these quotes around my office as well. For example, I've got these quotes around my office as well that just give me real positive suggestions, and they almost every time I come into the office, I'll be able to see these quotes around, and it will have a big effect in terms of what I think and believe, and as well how I use this to gain my car. Like when I first started my business, my dream car was a Range Rover Evoque, and at the time when I started the business, it felt so far away. But you know what I did? I started visualizing myself every single night driving one, and as well on my screensaver, I put a black Range Rover Evoque on my screensaver. So every time I logged in, I see that car, and it had this weird effect with my subconscious part of my brain. And 2 years later, I got the exact same car, and I was in a position where I could easily afford it. I was so blessed, and I just felt so good. You know what I mean? I was like, oh my God, this works. So people understand this stuff works. I'm proven to tell you that it actually works. So creative visualization and imagination can be used in plenty of ways. And vision boards as well, you know, put things that you want. It doesn't necessarily have to be a car, maybe a house, it may be a course that you want to complete. So like, for example, even if it was a course, create a fake certificate of you completing that course and put it on your wall. And these type of ideas are incredible. Like Jim Carrey did the same with a check before he was famous. He wrote himself a check. I think it was for £1 million or something like that. And within 5 years later, when he filmed, I think it was Dumb and Dumber, he was awarded £1 million to film and shoot that film. How powerful is that? So imagination, creative visualization are very similar things. That was a real principle in this book that had incredible results for me. Principle number 6 is planning, and planning is so important in terms of where you're going. You can have all these creative visualizations of what you want to do. You may have the best ideas in the world, but if you don't plan effectively, it will all fall apart, honestly. And this is such a real thing, and this is something I struggled with the past. I generally jumped headfirst into things, and I didn't really write stuff down. But planning for me now is something I have to really push myself to do, and I have to create specific time slots for me to be able to plan my week. Because if not, if I forget, I'll be completely messed up, because I have all these processes, all these tasks to do, and it'll be so difficult to understand where I'm at and how effective I'm being. So effective planning within the book, he really explains how important it is to actually, once you get that desire, is to write out the plan from the beginning. And the plan is not always going to go to plan, and you may have to deviate, but understanding where you deviate and understanding where it went wrong is so important. And this is where you need to log it down, and you need to obviously define what went wrong and understand why it went wrong. Then when you're moving forward again, is to implement a new strategy that incorporates the failure, because failure is not failure. Failure is only failure if you give up and stop. You know what I mean? All failure is an indication that you may need to improve in certain areas, and that improvement creates more abundance in the future, because you're not going to make the same mistakes again, man. You know what I mean? So understanding how to plan effectively is so important. The reason why I've done so well is this book here, and it's the Law of Attraction Planner as well. I'm going to link that below. You can get this on Amazon, man. This planner saved my life, and literally every single week it will give you actual ways of planning every single day. So each one of them columns is actually a day where you plan. You know what I mean? And before my day starts, I'll write in here my priorities to do for the day. And if I haven't checked them all off, I'll feel really guilty, man. I'll feel bad. And you know, if you just understand that it's small little actions every single day, you know, like the Compound Effect says, another book, which is incredible as well. But small little actions every single day in the right direction will move you towards the end goal so quickly. But the problem is, we get so complacent on the daily that we can't do these small things. So understanding how planning can change your life is so important. So principle number 6 was a huge game changer for me. When I understood I wasn't planning properly, I start to really make the changes. Things start to happen for me so much more quickly, and I felt so much less anxiety inside myself because I knew where I was. You know what I mean? Sometimes it's like anxiety only comes because you feel lost within the moment. And when you know where you're at and you know you're improving, it gives you that sense of achievement, and that good feeling will resonate every single day. Principle number 7 is decision. And this is so important as well, because you have to understand that we are making conscious or subconscious decisions all of the time. And like, it is really important to understand that procrastination is probably one of the biggest killers in terms of success, because what it does, it creates this element in our brain where we put things off. And believe it or not, that is still a decision that we are making, and it may sometimes feel like, you know, it's automatic, but it's because that subconscious part of our brain doesn't want to feel pain. So what we do in terms of our thinking is put things off and create stupid excuses of not doing stuff. So it's a bit like when you're trying to lose weight and you need to go for that run in the morning, and your brain's like, oh, I'll start tomorrow. Like, that is procrastination, and it comes from the subconscious part of the brain trying to avoid pain, man. And he explains this so well. And you know what, when I read this book, there was so much I needed to learn. There's so much I needed to do, and I was like, oh my God, like, it was like a wake up moment, and every single principle was something I needed to do a lot more of, and I still do. I still need to improve on it, but decision was one of them. I used to procrastinate massively in the first year of my engineering business, and even the second year, when I needed to do the mundane tasks and stuff that weren't really that fun. I used to put it off, and I used to say, oh, we'll do it tomorrow. But what would happen the next day, I'll get a job that would come out of the blue, like, an emergency job, and then I'd have to do the job, which then meant I needed to then do double the amount of work the next day, which really created this anxiety. And do you know what? It was so silly, because, when I had the time to do it, I could have done it, but because I slacked off, you know what I mean? It was so painful to go back again to do it with extra work. So remember, procrastination is a killer, people. You know what I mean? But we have the power to make the decisions, but we need to cultivate that mindset of understanding, right, let's do this now. But also, this really does play in with the planning as well, because when you know what you have to do, you then have to keep the mindset to be able to say, right, I need to do this, and we need to make the decisions to act now. Like, there's no tomorrow, man. There's no tomorrow, and this is something I had to tell myself. Like, there's no time like the present moment to do stuff. Like, get it done now, and you'll reap the benefits so much. So decision is a huge factor in this book. Principle number 8 is persistence, and this is so key. There's so many people out there right now that feel so disheartened when they don't make it after a year. Do you know what I mean? And you have to understand, like, the most successful people, that have sustained success within this world are people that have worked their bum off, but you don't see that part. You only see the success part, and persistence is so key. And do you know what? When you actually really explain this part, I started to understand where a lot of my frustrations were coming from. Because back in the day, I used to feel like quite frustrated because I wasn't where I wanted to be. But the reality was, I needed to have the self-awareness that I wasn't putting enough work in, and I wasn't being patient enough, and my thoughts and feelings were manifesting in the worst way. Because the more you feel frustrated, the more things will come into your life to be frustrated for. So persistence really shifted my way of thinking, in terms of thinking, do you know what? Like, overnight success is not what it's about. It's about actually being on the journey, and the journey, in terms of us learning and growing, is where we should feel like the fulfillment. And it doesn't matter that we're not at the end goal right now. Remember, guys, like, when we get to the end goal, it's going to be incredible. But remember, don't overlook there's beauty in the struggle, man. And J. Cole said this so beautiful. There's beauty in the struggle, ugliness in the success. And just deep that for a moment, because think about it, when we're in them times of like the struggle, the grind, and you start to prevail through that feeling of them small wins are so incredible at the time. And I remember when I was like the first year of my engineering business as well, and even when I first started doing music, and when I started to make small breakthroughs, the feeling would be so incredible, right? And them feelings always beat like the feelings now of acquiring even more wealth. It was because that struggle and the contrast of a small win was so great. So remember, always enjoy the journey, man. We're on these journeys for life, you know what I mean? And persistence is so key. Don't like feel frustrated because you're not there within a year. Just remember, like, you need to look at the real successful people. They were on complete roads. But you know what? The longer it took for them to succeed, the more sustainable they will be there, because they learned so much from the failures that they did. And remember, like, failure is only temporary. And failure teaches us so much, you know what I mean? Let's fail fast. Let's not, schools a lot teach us that failure is bad, and we've got this subconscious belief sometimes that, we have to keep succeeding. But the reality is, we can't keep succeeding until we actually learn from the mistakes, you know what I mean? So remember, like, persistence is so key. Principle 9 is Mastermind. And Mastermind is something that I'm still trying to employ so much, but they say that the people that you surround yourself with is so important in terms of what you manifest. And he explains how more than 3 people getting together, triangulating ideas together, can create this pool in terms of energy that creates this infinite intelligence pool in terms of subconscious thinking, and it puts ideas on the table. And remember, every time people get into a boardroom together as well at the same time, and they all start talking about ideas, there's new ideas that come to the table that generally wouldn't be there if you was there by yourself. So getting together where you've got people within your sector in terms of understanding, aligning with the same goals and values that you've got, and getting together and creating a team and really triangulating your values in terms of where you want to go and aims and objectives can create new ideas. And these ideas can propel you into the future. Like, there's a lot of successful people out there, but they didn't do it by themselves. They did it by creating a small mastermind of people that had the same goals and values. And when they all progressed together, like in abundance, the whole thing just took off because they were able to be able to put their minds together. And it was a weird quote that you said in there in terms of like when three people are together or more than three, you can have this weird pull of new ideas that just seem to come to you. So like I've been trying to pull together, I've got small mastermind groups at the moment, and do you know what, when we start talking, we start to really have these like new ideas, and it's kind of crazy where they come from, because without coming together with people, you wouldn't be able to put these ideas together as well. So the Mastermind networks is incredible, and it really sort of showed me that I couldn't do this by myself, you know what I mean? Principle number 10 is transmutation as well, and this is a real cool like subject. When I actually first listened to this chapter, I was blown away. But transmutation is like really trying to understand, it is law of attraction as well, very spiritual. And Napoleon Hill was a very spiritual man, but what he did, he explained it in ways that were so easily understandable, do you know what I mean? So transmutation is more about how we're feeling now is what we transmute within our physical realm in terms of feelings. So like for example, wealth, if you wanted wealth, you need to be able to feel that wealth now. And feeling wealthy can come in many ways in terms of just telling yourself that you are, and feeling good, you know, wearing nice clothes, you know what I mean? And feeling like you're worthy. And the same thing as well, he actually went into this chapter, was sexual transmutation, which was really cool, man. Like when I started to understand that especially with men, when we have this pull of like, you know, we're here and we've obviously got this will to procreate. It's something that's been put into our human nature. But when we use that sexual energy to be able to become successful, we can really focus and actually channel that energy into higher creative elements in terms of success, you know what I mean? So transmutation, it was a real good chapter, and it really sort of opened my eyes up to a lot of the things on this planet that we need to feel now to be able to transmute into our existence. You know, there's a lot of energy that goes through us, you know what I mean? There's these chakras we've got 7 chakras of energy, and then what he's trying to say is that we're trying to transmute the lower energies into higher creative energies. So them lower energies in terms of animalistic responses that we've had for years and years in terms of evolution, of survival, we're trying to transmute that in terms of fear, which is low frequency energy, into creation, which is high frequency energy. So that chapter was a huge eye opener. Please people, read this chapter and read it again and again and again to understand where he's coming from. Principle number 11 is subconscious mind, and this is where it gets really powerful. And the subconscious mind is like the center of your mental activity, and its domination over every single vital action in terms of like auto responses is so key. And this is where it's so important to understand how to transmute that information. And I explain this in the video below I've got in my description about how we actually really implement this part of our brain. So every single evening and every single morning we read our auto suggestion quotes in terms of our goals or where we want to be, to really try to reprogram that part of the subconscious brain, because them parts of the day is where our subconscious is so impressionable, because we could be doing it in the middle of the day, but because our conscious brain sort of is so intact, it's very difficult to communicate with the subconscious part. So when we're in that just before bed stage, we can really transmute this information really effectively. And the subconscious part of our mind is the automatic part that controls 95% of our behavior. So as soon as we can start to implement the subconscious with good positive habits, it can start to take over them automatic processes. And do you know what, it's the same as me. I've been running every day now for probably 2 or 3 months, but now it's so automatic. Like in the morning I don't even question it, I just do it, because I've made that habit automatic, you know what I mean? So it's so important to understand like habits can either be positive or negative, but we've got to try to really write into our brain the positive parts. And it may take a while, but as long as you do it consistently and repetitively every single day, eventually becoming successful will start becoming automatic, man. Principle number 12 is the brain, and wow, this is an incredible chapter as well, and this is really understanding the brain as like a radio frequency, and understanding that our thoughts and our actual intentions have some sort of energetic pull in the universe. And this can be very difficult to get your head around, but this is how the actual world works in terms of frequency. And there's been so many studies as well that actually measure this in terms of brainwave coherence. And you know, Dr. Joe Dispenza is a great actual study for this, because now we've got a lot more information on this. And this is the crazy thing, you know, remember Napoleon Hill was around, what, you know, nearly 100 years ago, and he knew this stuff. So it's incredible really, like now we've got studies that back this up. But every single thought and action is actually being transmuted and transmitted as an energy wave. And remember, every time that we transmute these thoughts and feelings out to the universe, they come back as the same frequency. And this is what raising vibrations actually is. All we're doing is raising our thoughts and vibrations at higher frequency events in terms of our feelings, which, you know, love, you know, being grateful is high frequency, fear and being envious is low frequency, you know what I mean? you remember, like, look at it as a scale. Higher frequency emotions in terms of what we emit come back to us, and it's just a real representation really of how the world works in terms of a physical realm. And do you know what I think really, like, initially Napoleon Hill was the first real person to understand law of attraction and really put it into a book where you could understand it. And this is what I love about it. It's not really mystical. Like, if you put two books together, like The Secret, which I do love, and To Think and Grow Rich. To Think and Grow Rich is so much more valuable because it teaches you really the background and the real essence of what he's trying to say in terms of information, whereas The Secret's just more quotes. So, you know, both books have incredible points, but this book is a guide, man. If you follow this book and you really implement everything in it, it has a huge effect on your life and where you go. So guys, thank you so much for this video. Next week we'll be reviewing another book. I don't know what it's going to be yet. I'm going to go through my book collection and have a look at the ones that had the biggest impact on my life. But guys, if you like this video, please subscribe to the channel. Please follow me on socials. We've got brand new socials as well. Will's Way free on Instagram and Twitter. Follow me on my personal profile as well to drop more gems. WillStar22. Guys, please subscribe. Please drop a comment if you like this. And guys, I want to see as well your success stories. Please DM me or even put in the comments what principle in your life like really changed your life in terms of if you've read this book. And if you haven't read it, guys, what are you waiting for? This book is a life changer. Go out and get it right now. But please guys, I hope you stay safe, hope you're staying well, sending love, light and positivity, and guys, let's go get it, man. Love.
You can never stop my wave, you can never stop my wave, no. Every single day I pray, every single day I pray.